What's good, everybody? I'm going to be talking about Basculin, and I'm super hyped to get into it because these guys are absolute beasts now with these awesome new abilities and the type change. But before I get into the logic and my reasoning and how this functions and how powerful and fun it is, I want to have a quick little disclaimer. If you are somebody who watches all my videos and you have yet to do so, or if you're a new person, just happens to be clicking on this video and you're recommended, welcome, by the way. Check out the description below. There is a link to the very same Google Sheet that I use in all my videos. It takes me a lot of time and effort to make this Google Sheet, and most importantly, every single change is laid out in detail. Most importantly, though, I said most importantly twice, I think, but most importantly, actually, is the move sheet here on the bottom where it says search all moves here. You can check out every single move, buff, and change and hack because there's 130 plus custom brand new moves, as well as basically every other move is reworked. There's like barely a dozen moves that are unchanged in any regard. Excuse me. So yeah, that's that, and there's a bunch of other useful Google Sheets at the bottom there as well, and I'm not going to dwell on every single move, buff, and change in this video because that would take way too goddamn long, and I don't have time for that, and you don't have time for that. So, Basculin, awesome buffs here. They are now dual typed, both of them, both the blue striped and the red striped, because in the files, in the game files, it actually allows me to individually change them. And when it does that, similar to what I did with Gastrodon, I wanted to differentiate them. I think it's kind of cool, and it's definitely very unique. I don't think any hack has ever bothered to give enough fucks to make them different types. Same with the Gastrodon, and how one of them is poison ground and the other one's water ground. I just think it's really cool and unique, because also another thing is water fighting and water dark both fit Basculin very well. The whole thing about them, being super it's literally called the hostile Pokemon, and nowadays, thankfully we actually have fucking fighting types that aren't just humanoid Pokemon. So all you stupid, dumb, idiotic people, this is obviously a joke, but all you people who out there who think that fighting types have to be bipedal or have to punch are wrong, and that's canon now, thankfully, because Pokemon like Paldean Tauros and Slitherwing and all these other Great Tusk, all these Pokemon exist now, and they have been existing for the last few gens where they make fighting types that aren't literally fighting like with their fists. They can be aggressive type Pokemon. Hence why I've added fighting typing to a lot of Pokemon in this hack, Basculin being one of them. And the dark type also fits them very well. I would say honestly, fighting and dark fit them almost equally. Excuse me. And so I opted to give the red one fighting type and the blue one with the angry eyes dark typing. Just, I think it fits a little bit more. And we already know how good of a dual stab combo water dark and water fighting is. Speaking of, that's why Crawdon now has tough claws instead of adaptability. If you did see that video, I got a comment recently talking about that. It made me laugh, but obviously adaptability is actually not as strong as tough claws on Crawdon because of the way that it stacks with stab. But anyways, yeah, adaptability is very, very powerful. Obviously, we all know what that does. Their other ability is Instinct. Instinct is awesome. Instinct is download. Okay, functionally, it's download, which is actually stronger than adaptability. So in this ROM hack, you do have access to infinite usability capsules, which I designed every Pokemon to have two very viable abilities that you're supposed to cycle between. You're not supposed to just run one the whole game. It's intended to change your abilities to and from one another whenever you need. Because, for example, although Water Fighting and Water Dark is very good dual stab, Instinct, not only is it stronger with stab, but Instinct allows you to use very powerful coverage moves. So adaptability gives you a flat 2x boost, all right? Because adaptability changes the stab multiplier from 1.5 to 2. It doesn't give a 50% boost. If it did, it would be a 2.25 times boost. Instinct is download, so you get a +1 attack or special attack boost depending on what you switch in on. And that means that you have a 25% power advantage over adaptability. Obviously, that doesn't mean that Instinct is better because there's a lot of obvious downsides to Instinct. Number one, unaware Pokemon, I guess, but that's not the number one downside. That was just the first one that came to mind. I don't know why, but the actual major downside is that you can't run mix sets, and that you have to, the obvious one that I'm for some reason dancing around is that you can't guarantee, well, you can guarantee what you get a boost on, but you can't switch in on anything you want and get the boost you want, if that makes sense. Because you might have to switch in on a certain Pokemon in this fight, and that Pokemon has a higher special defense stat, and therefore you get the attack boost. I believe that's how that works. I'm like blanking. Is it the higher stat? I'm pretty sure it's the lower stat, but let me just double check. I'm like 99% sure it's the lower stat. That's how download works. And if they're equal, I'm pretty sure it gives you special attack first. Yeah, I was right. So yeah, if their special defense is lower, then you get special attack. So, right for mix sets, that's incredible for mix sets, but it's actually not that good because with mix sets at the same time, it's hard to explain, but basically because It's good for the long term in the battle. You know, you switch it on one Pokemon, you get an attack boost, you turn out and finish them off, and then later you finish them off with a physical move, and then you parting shot out and drop their attack on the next Pokemon that comes in to counter you or whatever. And then later in the fight, you switch back into your Basculin, or you parting shot back into your Basculin or whatever, and now you have a special attack boost this time, and then you use a special move on that Pokemon. You know, that's the beauty of this ability, is you have a lot of customizability in your move pool. You have great stab options on both sides, all kinds of powerful stab options, as you can see. I'm not going to go into every single one in all of the base power nitty-gritty changes and buffs, but all you have to know is that a lot of them are very powerful, and you can see what all of those do in the description below. But my point was about Instinct is that, how do I explain this concisely? Adaptability is weaker on paper. Instinct is stronger on paper. However, adaptability allows you, for example, you could run Hydro Cannon plus a physical move, Hydro Cannon dropping its special attack stat by 2, or Hydro Pump plus physical move. You can run mix sets with adaptability, and you can guarantee you get a boost. Say, for example, your Basculin's role in this trainer fight, because you do have access to the trainer docs, and you should be preparing if you want to do a Nuzlocke and stuff, which is what this hack is balanced around, by the way. You switch in your Basculin, and the Pokemon that your Basculin has to kill that game is, I'm just going to scroll up by 1, it's a Lilligant, okay? And that will obviously give you that physical download boost, or instinct boost, excuse me, even I'm messing up the ability names. It will give you the physical instinct boost. So, you wouldn't, how do I explain this better? Like, if the Pokemon you want to kill doesn't give you the correct boost, then you would probably rather run adaptability, if that makes sense. If you're running, for example, if you're running a special set and you have to switch on a physical attacker, but you need the special attacks to kill another Pokemon, for example, say their other Pokemon is like very specially frail and you need the special sets to kill it, then you can't run Instinct, or you shouldn't, rather. You should run Adaptability for the flat, reliable boost. Adaptability is more reliable, okay? That's a better way to phrase it in a very concise way. I kind of danced around it too much. Adaptability is a lot more reliable, but it is weaker. It is weaker than Instinct, so definitely keep that in mind, especially with the coverage moves. That's a big advantage, because although Water Fighting and Water Dark is very good dual stab combo in terms of what resisted and whatnot, you're still going to want to abuse your coverage moves because you have a lot of good ones. You got powerful ones like Jagged Fangs, Iron Head, Psychic Fangs, Ice Fang, Poison Fang. All these are buffed in power. Mud Bomb, First Impression, Lunge, Sludge Bomb, Gunk Shot, Play Rough. Technically, the Dark and Fighting moves are also coverage on separate forms. For example, like the Blue Stripe form, Fighting is coverage. The Red Stripe form, the Dark moves are coverage. But yeah, otherwise you have other really cool things you can abuse. Obviously, like I said, you have very, very strong stab moves, like Surging Strikes, Wicked Blow, Wavecraft, Submission, Whirlpool, Hydro Pump, Close Combat, Focus Blast. All these moves are very strong. Okay, Uproar even is very strong. You have good utility as well. Stuff like Battle Cry, Parting Shot is good utility, especially on a fast Pokemon. Speaking of, I didn't really talk about the stats yet, but their stats might look, for this hack standards, relatively underwhelming, but you need to keep in mind that the abilities are absolutely incredible, and the dual stab is great. 113 speed is honestly a little bit generous. I think 108 makes a lot more sense, but I was like, you know what, fuck it, let them be a little bit quick. If you do check out the speed tier guides below, in the Google Sheet, you can see where Basculin currently stacks up with other Pokemon. And of course, you do have priority and Bubble Shot and Aqua Jet and First Impression, which every Pokemon has priority, so in this hack, which is nice. Yeah, otherwise you're very frail, obviously. They should be. They will die to even with neutral hits with EUs probably. Any decently strong neutral hit might just one-shot it, unless you're running investment, which you could totally do, or if you resist it. The Water Dark form also has the advantage of being able to switch in a lot easier because it's immune to Psychic. So while you might argue that Water Fighting is a better dual stab overall, Water Dark has that utility of being able to switch in on Psychic moves. So Fighting gives you almost no defensive utility because it doesn't even resist. Excuse me, I'm talking way too fast. Fighting doesn't even resist Bug anymore, so the only resist you gain from Water Fighting is Rock. So Water Fighting is like purely just an offensive combo for the most part. While Water Dark actually has defensive utility and solid resistances as well, which is nice. Otherwise, another really cool thing they can do is the Acclimate. The Acclimate is essentially conversion, so you'll change your type to match whatever move is on the top of your learn set, and the Z effect will give you +1 to all your stats, so you get +1 attack. The defense boosts don't really matter too much, but you get +1 attack, +1 attack, and speed. Defense could, I want to say, allow you to live a couple of hits, actually. Like a certain hit, you could actually live one now, so that's pretty cool. But most importantly, you get the boost, and you change your type. So you can run that with adaptability, and you can run any of your coverage moves, especially the powerful ones, and get stab on those. Which is really cool with adaptability stab on any of your coverage, as well as getting +1 speed and +1 offensive stat. Otherwise, you can use Instinct plus Power Trip and you become a Dark type, and that's really powerful because Power Trip after Instinct and the Z Acclimate, say if you get the +1 attack, especially is even better, but even with the plus special attack, Power Trip is still 140 base power, and then you can, you know, really go to town with that, because Power Trip now gives you +1 attack as well, which is really powerful. Of course, it only has 3 PP though, so you can't completely steamroll through trainer fights. You can't just spam it brainlessly. Not to mention, very, you know, strong priority absolutely checks the hell out of Basculin. Even with the Z Acclimate boost, first impression will still one-shot you because it always crits now. It's 60 base power, always crits. So that just keeps Basculin in check easily. Just that alone, let alone all kinds of other priority moves, and also just the fact that it's harder to switch in. Although honestly, with infinite use eject button and parting shot on all these Pokemon, it is easier to get offensive threats onto the field if you just use your brain a little bit. But yeah, other than that, great Pokemon. Logic-wise, obviously adaptability, they already had that, and then Instinct is very fitting. Also overlap-wise, it bothers me. Mega Sharpedo also has Instinct, and I don't want to change it. Initially, I actually had Strong Jaw in the fighting form and Hustle in the dark form, but I ended up opting to give them both Instinct instead. I think it fits more, and it's also just a lot better than those two abilities. Not that those two abilities are bad, but it's kind of weird. Like, there was a weird, oh, this one is Strong Jaw, but it doesn't get Stab Crunch, and it's a whole weird little situation. Reason I didn't give them both Strong Jaw is because Sharpedo has Strong Jaw, and that's a base Pokemon, which is a lot more of an issue with overlap. Mega Sharpedo is not that big of a deal to me because it is a Mega, especially because it has a pre-Mega ability with Speed Boost and all that stuff with Instinct, so it's like still a very different Pokemon. Although, yeah, they are two very strong, fast Water Dark types with Instinct, so yeah, kind of bugs me. You guys probably know by now that I like to stop Pokemon like situations like that from happening, but I think this is an exception to the rule that I place upon myself. So yeah, that's about it. Could cover a couple other things like the power of the moves and other stuff, but I'm gonna leave it off there. I probably went on long enough already. If you like this type of style buff and change, definitely consider subscribing, please. That'd be pretty cool. I'm pretty close to 1K at the time of uploading this. Hopefully you can help me get there. I appreciate you listening, and I will be back for more cool ass Unova buffs and changes. Peace, everybody.